Okay. Next, we have Diego Kaminker.
Hello. I will put my glass on to see you naked. Now it's better. Now I'm not nervous now. So I will give you a brief update on all of our programs, just some selected programs for today. So let's start. I was supposed to give this presentation with Preston Lee. Preston Lee is not here because he's a newborn father. But he's not a newborn, but he's a father of a newborn. English is not my first language. You understood. Let's review which our programs are. A brief update on program management. We will focus on the Foundry, and then a review of our educational programs and their status. So these are all our programs. Program management services basically deal with accelerators and other special programs. The ecosystem or Foundry, educational programs, and best practices and community and global outreach. We will not be talking about best practices because we don't like best practices. And I cover community and global outreach usually during the working group meeting, so I will not talk. And we have a session with Word, I think it's tomorrow, on how FHIR is used worldwide. So if you want to know how FHIR is used all over the world, you can watch it tomorrow. Again, we like this picture, so we are using it in all of our slides. No, just to see what is the implementation part. It should be bluish, like best practices, reference implementation, educational materials, reference implementation, development, and community and use case building. All the other stuff is, especially the yellow one is managed by Dan in the standards development division, but we work together anyway. And about testing, there was a very nice question about testing, and I think we will try to delete the word events. Events are good for testing, but we need to test all the time. All our work should be driven by testing. So we cannot wait to the connectathon to test. So at some point, we will try to delete the word event from this picture. On program management, very brief. We have just incorporated BPM plus health. Anyone knows what BPM plus health do? Very few. So it's trying to get the workflow and how to represent the workflow in systems into a processable way and integrate that with FHIR. This is our aim with bringing them into our family. So they create usually diagrams, which is in a language, and this language can be processed to represent an implementable workflow. So something that happens in one system that needs to go to the other, and in there, they will represent all the information using FHIR. If anyone knows about BPM, are you agreeing with my definition? Briefly, it's not a very deep one. We work with AHIP and Civitas for the Demographic Element Modernization Project, Phase 1. You will hear more about this during the next year or so. We are still in inception phase with 2 new accelerators, devices, and quality measures. And mostly you will see the work of program management, DaVinci, and all other accelerators when you see the inclusion of our IGs in regulation. So let's talk about the Foundry. This is what we promised. These are the actual words that Dan extracted from our plans. He usually makes a better work on words. Those are nicer. But basically, it's a place where we can discover, test, and try the reference implementations and other projects inside of our community. And it should be open. And the other thing is that we need to have a place to run these reference implementations and projects. So the output this year was 2 components, what I stated at 2 components. The gallery component of the FHIR Foundry, it's a place where anyone can discover, test, and try the reference implementation for HL7 specs. The first step would be discover. You can search by certain parameters like description or tags, or classification or domain, and maybe want to know more about a specific project, you can delve into that project and see what it is about. Basically, if someone asks you, is there anything about laboratories in FHIR right now? So you can go to the Foundry and see what is available in terms of reference implementations, examples, or other stuff. We will do that in a few moments so you can see it. If you want to test it, instead of hear me, you can just follow the URL or the QR and try it. Once you have your product identified, it can be a client or a server, there is a button called Try It, and you can try with a client what a server can do. And that's our idea of how to show the implementation guides to stakeholders. Because usually you will show them the IG and they will not understand anything. So the way to explain someone who is not the reference implementation author how it works is to use the client reference implementation and show it really how it works. I will show you in a moment. And finally, you can use the reference implementations where they are running to test your products, your client against the server or your server against the client. If you have a project, open source or reference implementation which is not yet in the Foundry, please use this URL or email me and I will tell you how to. That was for me? No. So what we have in the roadmap for this component, it's something, first, to do your own submissions. You will have your own account in HL7, and you could submit a product directly without sending an email or filling a form. That's the first step. And the other step I will show you later is to be able to, once you have identified the project, to download the project into your own environment with one click and make it run, to test it in your own environment instead of testing it in the Foundry. So that's the other step we are taking. And let's see a little bit of the Foundry. So this is the Foundry, and this is how you can search. In this case, I will search just for labs. Oh, yes. I don't know how, but yeah. Mirror is somewhere here. Mirror. It's here now?
Or is it escape out of presentation?
Yeah. Very good that I have you here. Now?
Yeah, there you go.
Very good. So this is a Foundry. These are all the artifacts that we have now in our repository. They are ordered by last changed. But if I want something about lab, the only thing about lab is this HL7 Europe sandbox. So you can really go there, try it, and see what is inside. So from seeing what it is to going and see one resource, it's just a few clicks. So, but that's not the main thing I want to show. If you want to see how CRD works, so this is CRD, and you want to try a client, so let's see what CRD is about. You have a a complete description, a link to the implementation guide, to the Confluence page, to the source code. But if you want to show how CRD works to one stakeholder, you can try it now, and then use it like you were a person using it. And you can explain your customers or your friends or anyone who has no technical background how it works. This is what you can do with CRD. So I will just submit the information to a server and see what the server returned. So that's try with a client. There are other ways to search. You can search just clients or just servers or use one of these tags. We are building the tag structure. If you have ideas on how to improve it, just all of them that were created by a specific accelerator, you can just go there and see all created by DaVinci, or anything about genomics, you have all the genomics reference implementation there. So that's the Foundry. The gallery part. And there is another part, which is the hosting part, which is a secure place managed by HL7, where we can install and run the reference implementation for the HL7 specs. And we are only limited to accelerators. Mostly, we are studying how to go, how to have other groups getting their reference implementations in the hosting part of the Foundry. The problem here is that it needs money to run, so it's not free. It's a serverless contained-based environment to host reference implementation. It's based on Portainer, which is a product that manages images and can replicate them and making them scalable. And the 5 principles we are trying to obtain with this architecture is availability. So moving from something that only works in connectatons to something that, what we call a living lab, something that is always available to test. It's scalable. It can grow if you have more clients trying or testing your reference implementation. It will grow and will enable more instances of the same. It's integrated to your CI/CD process. And the most important thing is consistency. So all the reference implementations running in the Foundry should have the same architecture in terms of being a service that is published in one port. So you can mix and match for a specific service your own in the future. So we want that to be a rule. There is a good practice document that we developed last year. I will show you some extracts of the document. The important thing for the roadmap, we are trying to create some shared services like terminology, security, launching of CDS hooks, a mini EHR, maybe based on some open source EHR that is available, and some security systems. That's our first step in the next year. And these are some questions you need to do yourself when you are creating a reference implementations. Do I need a full-fledged reference implementation client or server? You saw 2 examples today. One was a client pretending to be something that the person will use to actually use these services. And you saw just a FHIR happy server with some viewer. So those are both valid. But depending on what you want to achieve, you need a full-fledged client and server. Then what are the best practices to build this? We need to focus on service containerization and configuration through environment parameters. If you have your reference implementations running in 4 ports and with nothing in configuration, but everything is fixed, it will not work in the Foundry. I wanted to show you what I'm doing for CDX, and these are all the parameters I discovered they should have. I will show you in a moment. So mostly the work is to change everything that you have hard-coded to something in the environment that you can change. So in this case, this server touches different places in different implementation guides or reference implementations of other implementation guides. It touches a prior authorization server, a provider server, a payer server, a DTR server. So instead of having it in localhost or hosted in some specific place that only you know, you need to have this configured. So we can actually deploy your reference implementations in the Foundry or elsewhere. There is more info about this in the QR code. The other problem is how are these reference implementations maintained? So if you create your reference implementation for one connectathon and then abandon it, it will not be useful in the future because the security threats are always new and your tools are always old. So you need to be current on the tools that are used to create your reference implementation. This part was what Preston was going to present. Is work in progress, but he has other work in progress going on. So I will just tell you that this is a tutorial on how to install a product in your environment with just one click. We selected FHIR because we love James. And if you see the Foundry and how it is presented, it's the more complete now. Let's find happy. Not in genomics. Oh, he is happy. So the idea is to build your environment variables from here, and then when you just download your product, it will just run. It will, if you have Docker installed, it will not, in this case, it's one product, but even if we have a stack of products, it will download to your computer, and it will just run with your selected environment variables. We are working on release 4 and 5 in this case. These are not all the environment variables in FHIR, but to do that, you need like 5 years to have all of them. Preston selected some of them. So you can deploy your instance directly. You can read this on your own. And let's focus on education now. Well, in education, we promised 3 programs to increase the quality, value, and reach of our educational offerings. This was made possible with the help and hard work of our Director of Education, Sadhana Alangar. And I will update you in the 3 programs. The first one is Credentialing. Our plan was to create, instead of 1 exam that we have today, the proficiency, at least 5. One is called Essentials or Foundational, which is similar to the proficiency, but based on what people needs in their daily job. The proficiency test was based on your knowledge of the standard. The foundational and all the other tests will be based on what you need on the job. So the process that we use to create it involves having subject matter experts, people that is actually hiring people to do FHIR, and asking them what you need, these people to know. And that's how we created the syllabus, and how we created the skeleton of the test, and how we created the questions. So we piloted the first one last month. We have 107 participants in the pilot. They had to answer 125 questions in 3 hours because we were testing the questions to see if they are okay. Now we are finishing the evaluation phase. We will announce the cutoff and passing participants this month. And we started developing the second test, which is an advanced test for developers. what do you need to do in order to be a FHIR developer? We are focusing on using the current libraries. So you need to know FHIR Happy if you are a Java developer. You need to use C# libraries by Firely if you are a C# developer. You need to know Python if you are a Python developer. And you need to know some TypeScript or JavaScript library of the 10 that are available if you are a JavaScript developer and you like to suffer. So we are creating this test based on the knowledge you have on using these tools to create clients and servers and facades. Speaking of this, if you think you know how to do this, send me an email because we are asking for item writers. Item writer is a poor person that spends 1 week with other persons creating questions for the exam. So if you think you know, let me know. That's credentialing. Partnering, we developed the partnership structure, categories, contracts, web page requirements, and we have 3 partners signed up so far, the University of Taipei, Farley, and Aegis. And on certified educators, we developed the certified educator registry, categories, web page requirements. We have already 11 certified educators globally. This is the registry. And if you are interested in becoming one, you need to see the requirements there and send an email to satna@hs7.org if you want to become a certified educator. And that's my time, I think. I'm okay? Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, we have about 5 minutes for questions. Anyone?
Anyone creating reference implementations here?
Yep.
Thank you. Just a couple quick questions. Just looking at the Foundry right now, I'm looking at CRD, and maybe two quick questions on it. One, there's a lot of really great background in the IG, right? That was created. For Karen Blue Button, we spent a lot of time, months, kind of crafting how we wanted it to be worded and all that. And what's in there right now is just one sentence in Foundry. It's a great overview, but it's just a quick hit of what it actually is. So have there been any discussions about sort of adding more kind of literature, more information in there about?
We are free to include whatever the artifact owner provides because we have a very flexible method of creating more references inside of each product. You don't need to follow our rule for your. You can say, I want this link, this link, this link, and this link. And in fact, you can describe whatever you want in your description. We haven't written the descriptions because we don't know what you do.
Sure.
So for each developer of reference implementations or any product, open source that they want to include in the Foundry, you should give us whatever you want us to display.
Maybe I would just suggest, in terms of best practices, because you had a list of best practices, here are some recommended things you might include in terms of the literature that you include there, because
yes, I will like. Yeah. In fact, when I started thinking this with Viet, we even think you need to have a video.
Yeah, that'd be amazing,
right? A 5-minute video
a walkthrough of how you actually
what, because when I started to think about this, it was because I was reviewing the IG, and I was teaching the IG to my students, and they did not understand a word of what they were reading. So we started with Dan a movement to include some human words explaining the IG. I don't know the actual name. Maybe he knows.
Plain text summary.
Plain text summary. I think that the plain text summary should be here as the description. If the plain text summary is more than 1 page, or maybe half a page, but maybe we can just create a section with half a page with a plain text summary and make the plain text summary mandatory for all the implementation guides. The only thing I discovered by reviewing the CDX is that it's not that the reference implementation is complex. The IG covers a lot of things.
Yeah.
A lot of things going on from one system to the other. It's very difficult to explain, even looking at the code. So, and I understand your pain.
Yeah. Last question is, where does the leave feedback button, like who gets the feedback if you have questions?
There are two levels. One is about the Foundry in general, when you want to complain to us. I don't care because I tell Preston. And the other one is to the IG, to the reference implementation creator, the one inside. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm not sure if these people is coming to take us out or they want to hear.
One more question, maybe? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.